Hey guys, happy fabulous Friday on a Saturday. So I hope you guys are having a good day. I wanted to get on here and do our little Friday video because I was a little late. I was a little too late on Friday. I had to take the cat to the vet. He's okay, thankfully. It's all right. He had a cold and like, I don't know if you guys know, but like 99% of cats have feline herpes, which means that they often get like little respiratory infections. It's not herpes like we get herpes with cold sores and stuff. It's just like a little respiratory infections that cats get. And 99% of cats from like stray cats and also cats from the SPCA and stuff get these respiratory infections. And so anyway, and that's what he had. And he was sneezing quite a bit, so I had to get him to the doctor, get some medicine. And Pumpkin too, both of them were sick. So I made this really pretty card. I mean, cute, right? So I decided I was in love with this stamp. After I showed you guys how to make that piñata card the other day, the Fiesta card, which was so cute, I used this one. And I have hardly used this stamp set at all. And I was just trying to figure out what else I would do. And I love that rose. And so I decided to make a Belle card, a Belle inspired card, using that rose, because I thought that was a good one. It's a little abstract, but it's clearly a rose. It's just a little watercolor. And the saying that I chose was from this one here, the Simply Fabulous. I almost used the You Are Fabulous again, but I've used it a few times, and you know, I'm keeping the stamp set just for this phrasing, and I like the lettering too, but I don't have a ton of stamps that I just use mainly for the phrases, but this one is one. So this is what we're using today. So it's not a difficult card, but I also was trying to figure out how I could feature Belle with, you know what I mean? Like more than just the rose. And this ribbon was the other thing I decided to feature. And so we're using this ribbon, which is the, what's it called? Satin edged ribbon. And so it has like a little trimming of gold. So I don't know, I think it's perfect for Belle. So this is our inside. And this is our, oh, you know what? I need to make sure that this is the right size. I think it is. Let me make sure. I made that card this morning. Yeah, so, oops, no, this is 4 inches. I need to make it smaller. So I need to trim my yellow pieces, I think. This, yeah, that's annoying. I thought I had another yellow one that was the right size. I guess not. Okay, not bad. Let me trim it real quick. So we need one that's, it's going to be this is going to be 3 3/4 by 5 inches, because this layer is the one that we're stamping. And then the outside card is like a normal size card. So, okay. Yeah, I swear I had another layer. So it's probably here. I just dropped it. Or maybe I dropped it. Okay, so what we're using is the rose from the Artistically Inked stamp set. And we're going to use the red ink, which I put away, real red. I was going to use, I'm going to show you the cherry cobbler because I'm using cherry cobbler paper. I'm using the cherry cobbler cardstock. But I don't know, this red, the cherry cobbler ink red is like almost too dark. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a rose, but it's so dark. I felt like it was just a little too dark. I didn't want to have like a burgundy looking rose. I wanted a red rose. And so that's why I wound up doing this one. So instead of having a burgundy one, I decided to still use the cherry cobbler cardstock, but I'm using the red ink. And so I'm just going to stamp one here in the corner of my inside. This is my inside of my card. So it's a pretty simple card overall. And so we'll just set that aside. And then I'm actually going to go against the rules a little bit with my stamping, because you know I normally don't like to stamp like right in a row, but I'm going to do that this time. So, and I'm not rotating it. I'm just going with it. Sometimes I think we think too hard about how perfect, you know, we get some of our stamping. Oh darn, I meant to have, but I wanted these centered. So actually this one's rotated sideways. I kept the stamp the same direction. And I'm just filling in these little edges. So it looks like I cut it out of a piece of designer series paper. Okay, there we go. Okay. So we'll go ahead and we'll use this. We are done with this rose, so we're done with that. And oh, you know what? I'll go ahead and stamp my little piece of paper. So this is 1 1/4 by 2 inches, I believe. No, 2 1/2. So this is 1 1/4 by 2 1/2 inches. And our lettering, we're using the Everything is Beautiful. I don't know why I put away the red. Anyway, so I'll go ahead and stamp our label. It doesn't take very long to do this card. It's actually pretty quick, but it sure is pretty. I really wanted to try and make the, I want the rose to be the feature, but I still want like, oh, it's a little crooked. Okay, let me flip it over. See if I can get it straight. This is a new stamp, so. Oh, dang it. And then it came out too. All right, I'm gonna have to cut another one of those. Okay. Okay, so the key to getting this stamp straight is you line up the E against the bottom, because this Y kind of throws me off, and the T at the top, you can see like the T at the top, you see how the T is like short, you know what I mean? Lining up the H is going to be a little difficult, and the Y kind of throws things off. The Y and the G, you know what I mean, kind of throws off your eye. So just look at the E and the line of the E. And if you can get that line center, you know, angled right on the bottom, that'll help you stamp the lettering. That's just a trick that I've learned over time, to like try and find the straightest part of your stamp and use that to guide where you put your stuff down. There we go. It's a little faint, but it's not too bad. It's good enough. This one, it just was too patchy. And then this one, it was quite crooked. You know what I mean? So like, I had to figure something out. So, all right. So we're done with our stamping for now. And all we're doing is we're going to go ahead and glue this layer. And so I think what keeps it where you don't notice, there is some extra spacing. Like if I look really hard, I'll see that there's some imperfections, right? If I look really hard. But as you look at the whole page, you don't really see it. You know what I mean? Like this space technically, this one's a little higher than that one. You know what I mean? But don't worry about it. Just go ahead and just stamp straight across. Just try to keep an even distance as best you can. Like this is narrower than this, obviously. But no one's going to notice it because there just won't. You know what I mean? No one really notices any of that stuff. Oh, this is a recycle. This was another card that I did where I did a Belle card, but instead of doing, and it was a rose, this is called the Sentimental Rose stamp. And this is from a kit that we have in our kits collection, and I think it's still available. And it's called the Sentimental Rose card kit. It was a paper pumpkin kit as well. And I've used that rose over and over again for all kinds of cards. And so I just love how it looks. It's just really detailed. And so these are distinctive stamps. the expressions in ink, which means that they have a lot of texture in them so that you can, I'm pretty sure. Oh, it doesn't say it on the side. Normally it'll say it on the side. Maybe not. I used to think it would say it, but maybe it doesn't. No, it doesn't. But distinctive stamps are ones that have a lot of texture in them. They're not like line. These are like considered like flat line stamps, and these are considered distinctive because they have a lot of different texturing on the stamp, which means what they do is they carve into the rubber here all kinds of different texture. Like when you touch it, you can feel the lines of it, and that's how you get the little watercolor look. And so that's just something to know. So I think I like the bottom half of this better than I like the top half. So I'm going to go ahead and put my label in the top half. And my label is pretty simple. This is, like I said, 2.5 wide by 1 1/4. 1 1/4 in height and 2.5 in width. So that means this is 2 3/4, and this is 1.5 by 1.5 inches. Okay, so my label's pretty simple, but I didn't have a punch. I didn't feel like getting out the die cutting machine. And like I said, I'm using red again because I just really love how bright the red looks. The cobbler against the yellow just looks so, oh, and I didn't use the real red cardstock because it actually looked almost like Ronald McDonald-y. And so here, I've got a piece here. See how like when you match up this yellow and this red, it really, really yells and screams like Ronald McDonald, you know, because the Daffodil Delight is so bright and Real Red has its own color. So I felt like the two of those together almost look like two Ronald McDonald. But the Cherry Cobbler, I just felt like gives it a richer color. And so that's why I didn't use the Real Red cardstock. Just so you know, in case you were wondering, you can choose to. That's just why I chose it. I always like to tell you guys why I choose certain things, because it seems like, well, if I'm using Real Red cardstock, a Real Red ink, I would want to use the same cardstock. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Sometimes it's not as good an option. And I'm using up all the very ends of my dimensional paper. Oh, I don't know why I put this on first. I wasn't really thinking, but and we're going to center it at the top here. I think I was just thinking of, I don't know, I was just not really paying attention. And so this is going to go on here, but I need to get my ribbon. So for my ribbon, I'm going to tie a knot on one side. And the reason why I'm tying the knot first, before I do anything else, and I'm going to go ahead and just use this. Even though I already stamped on this, I'm going to go ahead and use this to color. I don't know, I guess I don't have to, just because the blends do seep through. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to tie, I don't want my knot too tight. I want my knot to be a little bit loose, because it reminds me a little bit of the roses from Beauty and the Beast, or the rose, not roses, but the rose from Beauty and the Beast. I don't know, it just reminds me a little bit of that. And so I was trying to figure out how to get the swag that's on the skirt. You know how there's those swag like tulle on her skirt? You know, it's almost like a cake or a cupcake. And so I couldn't make the swag. It was just looking too weird. But I felt like having this little knots here was like cute. It still reminded me of a rose, but not necessarily too literal. I tried coloring one here. I don't know. I didn't love it. I thought it was okay, but I didn't think it was like the best thing ever. It's right here. Come on. say I made this little rose here, and then I made this one. But see, I don't know, it just doesn't look right. Like I thought, well, if I color this knot, maybe it'll look like a rose. This does look a little bit like a rose, this little piece, but I don't know. It just didn't, I wasn't in love. So I tossed them. I was like, nah, I'm not in love with those. And so, I mean, they're cute, but it just didn't scream rose, you know, what I was going for just didn't really work. And so, but the intention was there. So you just try things out, you know. But I definitely loved the knots. Now, these knots that I have are a little bigger. You can move them to however you want. So if you need your knot to be moved a little bit closer, that's another reason why you don't pull your knot too tight. Just loosen it up a little and move it over. You don't have to move it over too far, but just a little bit. And I just don't want them to be too tight, because if they're too tight, then, I don't know, you just kind of lose that nice knot effect, and it looks a little bit more, to me, it looks just a little messier. So, all right, so then you're going to take your dark Daffodil Delight marker. I use the dark, and you just color up your ribbon. And so I had to move it around the knot. I twist it over and color all the way around. I don't do that on the flat side because it seeps through. Like on this side, on the flat part, it seeps right through. But the knot, sometimes little parts of the knot will show through when you attach it. So you kind of want to have the knot fully colored. There we go. And so, and then you just color and you just let it dry here for a minute, because it's gonna take a minute for the alcohol to dry, and it's gonna stain your fingers just a little bit. Let's get this all. Okay. There we go. I think I've gotten it all. All right, I think we're done with that. Then while I let that dry a minute, I'm also going to color my rhinestones. I don't have, there are some new red. I don't think they're not the baby rhinestones, but I think we do have some new red. Oops, that one's not going to work. I think we have some new red rhinestones. The other ones retired. We had those little the real small baby ones for a long time, but they retired those. So all I did was I took the cherry cobbler marker, and oh, this one's a different size. Okay. And I just colored, you just color the rhinestones, and you just let it dry for just a minute. The alcohol will attach, and you just let it sit there a second. And I only colored 3 because that's all I needed. And you do want to let it just kind of sit for a minute and dry, because it will come up. So let me take this away. It's drying. It'll come up on your fingers, and so that's what I'm trying to avoid. And so let me go ahead and glue the inside of our card while that's drying. Alcohol dries pretty quick, so the alcohol markers. So, and I thought the rose on the inside of the card was kind of nice. So this is just Daffodil Delight paper. And there we go. And just that's sweet inside. And we're just going to take, so this ribbon is called the Satin Edged Ribbon. But see how the gold really pops when you color it? The blends also make your ribbon kind of stiff, which is okay. I mean, it's not a bad thing. So, oops, I'm going to need that. So now I'm going to go ahead and wrap this around and tape it down. And so it's not crazy fancy, but it sure is pretty. I don't know. As especially for someone who loves Beauty and the Beast. My sister likes Beauty and the Beast. I bet you she'd like this card. If I told her it was Beauty and the Beast, she would know exactly what I meant. Not everyone will get it, you know. But some people can see the vision, you know what I mean? Like, not everyone can. All right, that seems good. I think this is a little bit, just be real careful if you use your marker on your ribbon again, but I saw a little piece of vanilla, because it's the very vanilla. That's the good thing about the white ribbon that we have. Most of the time, you can color technically any of the ribbons that we have, but the vanilla and the white ones are really great because they'll absorb whatever color the blend is. So it's perfect for wanting to change the color of an embellishment like a ribbon. I did the same thing with the different embellishments besides the plain rhinestones. I colored some of the pearls that we used to have and the opals. Like maybe the opal was yellow and I needed it to be green, so I would just color it with, or I needed it to be blue, so I would add a little green so that we'd get blue. You know, so if you mix the colors on it, it'll usually help. Okay, so there's our basic card. And we put on our little rhinestones and we're done. Pretty quick card. It didn't take me too long to, take me a few minutes just to figure out the, whoops, come on. That's what I wanted to avoid. There we go. And I'm going to recommend, instead of using your fingers, use the edge of your, because the oil on your fingers will sometimes pick up a little bit of the alcohol on the rhinestone. So try not to use your fingers. Instead use, it's stained, but sometimes what'll happen is it'll just come up just a little bit on your finger. And so it's better just to, that's why you also don't want to let it roll around too much, because sometimes if it's not dry yet, like these little edges here that are not dry here, they'll sometimes like seep out onto things. So there's our card. Pretty quick, right? Not too hard. Pretty simple, but really pretty, right? And so I just like the way it shined. I thought it definitely had a nice little glow to it. And I definitely think that the cherry cobbler was a better choice than just the straight red. It just, to me, it looks better. So I didn't want a wine color. I don't know. I wanted it to be red. So I knew it was a red color. Anyway, all right. Well, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. And I hope you're having a great Saturday. It's a little bit, oh, I guess it's not that early. It's already 12. No wonder I'm hungry. So, all right. I hope you guys are having a great Saturday and you enjoy the rest of the day. I'll see you guys on Monday. Okay.